right. It's now time for raising funds for World Domination, day 78. Orthoplex 64 is here early. It sends a wave. How's it going? So, no updates on this. I guess I published that shorts that I said I finished, and also worked a little bit on a script for next video to record. Let's see. I guess we'll continue with what we always work on, which is the terminal block mining simulation game. So yesterday I completed some work on simplifying how the changed regions of the screen are tracked. And today I'm just going to basically continue with that work. So we'll start off by running it, making sure it still works. Hi Rob, I'm proud to be nurturing, intelligent, grateful, generous, educated, responsible person. Proud to be a NI. You're making an inappropriate joke there. That's not very nice. Okay, that looks like it works. There are no bugs. The Samsung smiling blush emoji. Do you mean it's actually a fire icon, or is it that it is fire? Circuit needs to be banned. Yeah, that's borderline. I'd say tone it down, or I'll have to ban you. You need to be banned? I don't know. I'd say between the two of you. I don't really want to attract more of that. Let's see. probably delete this. Delete it. It is childish. But it is. I don't even know what you're talking about. The Samsung smiling blush emoji is fire. I don't know what that looks like. When you say it's childish, do you mean that the first joke he made, or is there something else there? I'm not completely following along, but he's trying to spell out the N word. Yeah, I noticed that in the first thing he said. If he continues to do stuff like that, he'll ban a category for a ban. But then he said something about Samsung smiling blush emoji is fire. I don't know what that means, but I mean, I don't have a Samsung phone, so, but it seems like a random thing to say. It means all these flags. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know. This almost just seems like borderline spamming to me. I don't understand what you're trying to convey. I think I might also have to make some specific rules for minors in the Discord, because I don't necessarily want to completely ban anyone who's a minor, but I think one of the rules I'll have to have is no direct messages with minors. So if you know of someone who's a minor in the Discord, make sure all communications with them are in public channels. Or I'm not sure what our friend here is posting there. If he's posting edgy stuff here, I guess you're a mod. So if he's posting off the rails stuff there, you can ban that. So I'll probably write that in eventually. But like for anyone who's who's listening, if you are a minor and you're in any of these Discords that are linked, if someone messages you for a direct message, don't respond to them. And if you regardless of your age, don't send any direct messages to minors. Always chat with them in public channels. Post that flag thing. I don't know what that means. Ain't Googling it either. Yeah, I don't know. To me, I just consider that spam. Maybe there's some coded meaning behind it. Everything has layered, complicated meanings these days, and I don't have the time to. And some of it doesn't even have like universal meaning. It's like a meme that 5 people understand. Maybe he's a bot. It could be. I mean, it's literally not possible to know if someone's a bot. That's going to be my official policy. I know there's a lot of people that come in here, come into chat, and then accuse other people of being bots, or like that other person's a bot. You should ban them. You're running on ChatGPT 4. Who programmed you, and why are you here? You're a former bot? Bill Clinton? Why'd Bill Clinton send you here? I doubt that he would do that. Send me here to debunk the allegations? You brought that up a few times the last couple of days. But this is a channel about programming and technology, and I mean, if you want to just keep talking about that stuff, I'll classify that as spam. Another vote to ban you. Conspiracy theorist bot. We're rewritten in Holy See. Congratulations. Let's see. Your IT department banned network switches for whatever reason. That's strange. I have a feeling that, I guess, IT companies I guess I have trouble parsing that sentence. I have trouble that in IT companies only. I have a feeling that it in companies only exist to make that companies only exist to make you feel unproductive. Yeah, I mean on that, I don't know if that's exactly the sentiment you wanted to express, but I almost feel like companies, like a lot of companies in general, are like exists to prevent innovation. Like if ordinary people just like organized themselves and like did their own things instead of working at Google, we would probably have like much better technology. In fact, I'm really sure of it, because like, especially from teaching and like with the way the interview process works and stuff like that, like almost everything that exists in our modern society is a drain on innovation. The reason they stated is security. The issue is that no device that's supposed by IT can connect to the network anyways. IPv6 with the proper spelling is IPv vulnerable. I know there's a lot of issues to there's a lot of potential security issues and firewall complexities with mixing IPv4 and 6. So much new stuff to know. I don't know, maybe they're suspicious of their vendor or something. Maybe they do TLS termination for a local network and they don't want to please random spyware. Yeah, I guess that could make sense if they don't want, because apparently, actually, I think that's been a trend recently where people send out these people end up easily inserting these like little sniffer devices. You just put them in somewhere in your network and they grab packets and mail them back to North Korea. What are your thoughts on people taking long shots with crypto? Do you see it as a security or technology? Long shots, you mean like just buying it? And I don't have any cryptocurrency, or and I don't really recommend anyone else do get into it. Almost every time I've seen one of those things. Like I bought some back in the day, and I made money on Bitcoin. I bought it back in like 2013 or something, 2012 or 13, and I made like $600, and I decided to keep the rest of it. And so then I had an extra like $200 in Bitcoin, and I diversified it across a couple four different exchanges, and every single exchange got hacked. And I even had like other Dogecoin and stuff, and the whole scene is just it. There's basically, I have yet to see any real economic use of cryptocurrency. And even back in 2014, the whole narrative was that we were going to replace the existing economy. We're going to move it on to Bitcoin, where people are actually going to buy stuff with Bitcoin. And there were actually a few sites that opened up like a payment option for cryptocurrency payments on their site. That was a thing that was, we were getting all excited about, how many you could buy like computer parts and stuff with it. And then that kind of died away. And then I don't hear anyone talk about actually buying anything with cryptocurrency anymore. And the main issue is that if you have it, it'll get hacked. The transfer fees are insane. It's like it's only useful for like illicit stuff. So I'm not don't have any. I mean, if you want to take a high risk, high rate of return thing, just trade options or something. Just use like leverage in a real brokerage account. IT departments and companies. I also think the more broader statement is that companies exist to like hamper productivity. That's how it seems sometimes. I mean, it basically is like this. Google hires really smart people and just gets them to like do whatever just to prevent them from going to work somewhere else to innovate. The new society, hopefully we can reach IPv dangerous. I don't know what that means. IT buys all assets. Employees are not bringing their own stuff. Just stop to say hi. I left right away after sending this. Right. I guess you won't hear my response. You can buy US-based network devices that are certified. Some of them are used by military as well. Yeah, I should look into that. I had I would prefer to maybe buy some like actual like trustworthy hardware that's at least like, I would rather it be backdoored by the US than backdoored by China. Never had any problems. Always prioritized security over convenience. Poof. Game dev chat appears at the mention of options. Oh yeah. If you want to learn about like high risk trading strategies, ask game dev chat. Every exchange got hacked. Yeah, one of them got like taken over by the FBI or something. It was like a Russian. I think it was called Crypsy or something. And then I think I remember it was down for a long time. I tried to like withdraw my funds, and then the funds just got stuck. And then then the site was down, and then I went back to it a long time later, and I think it said it was like seized by the FBI or something. What are your PC specs? It depends which PC. There are just a couple old crappy computers. I really need a new one. TP-Link might be banned actually. Yeah, I think I've heard of it. that one as well being really extra bad. And they're like super cheap. Now, what one was called, one was a Canadian exchange. I think it was called like CI Vertex or something. The other was called, I think it was called Vercorex or something. And then the other one was it was so trashy, I don't even remember the name of it. And I think I tried to go like log in like 6 months later, and the domain did not even exist at that point. They just like vanished. I mean, every single people always say like, oh man, I wish I bought Bitcoin years ago. But the only way to buy it years ago was like the most sketchy way possible. Like it was almost impossible to get it anywhere. And you had to like, you know, trade it through the most sketchy possible sites. Pump it up. Crypto scams are actually good because it's a win-win. You get in early, get big money. Not even that illegal. People bring it up over and over again, but I have zero interest in it at all. Like if you want to basically borderline gamble, just you know, trade on high leverage on trade some stocks or something. That way, when your account gets hacked, you can actually call like a bank or something and be like, hey, my account got hacked. And then they'll be like, oh, wow, we better do something about this. Whereas if your Bitcoin gets hacked, you call someone, they'll just laugh at you. Be like, haha, you lost all your Bitcoin. Reminds me of my dad saying, you have to want to scam in order to get scammed. Yeah, that's kind of a lot of it. A lot of it's just like scammers scamming each other. On the circuit says you need to buy TN XP. Is that some cryptocurrency? If it is, that's another red flag. That's if people mention cryptocurrency, in passing, it's not a big deal. But I do have to ban cryptocurrency peddlers sometimes. A stock. Okay, you're in the clear this time. Just give me money instead of dumping the crypto. Yeah, just don't invest in crypto. Just invest in me for my world domination plans. And then once I take over the world, I can just fix the economy, and then you'll all be richer by default. All right, this is getting a bit more clear. ICP looks cool. You can host websites entirely on chain. Yeah, there's some interesting niche cases of Bitcoin, but I don't know. A lot of them, I think, are of cryptocurrency in general, but I don't follow that stuff anymore. It's just people reinventing stuff and putting blockchain, taking concepts that already exist and putting blockchain on it. Your boy Jensen is killing it. Is Nvidia stock up today? Some pharma ticker symbol. Well, if you want to gamble, go for it, I guess. If you win, you take all the credit, but if you lose, then I guess you have to suffer the consequences. BTC is at 177K. The problem with buying Bitcoin is that if so many people buy it and then you get hacked, and like your computer gets hacked, or now you become a target and you get like 5,000 phishing links for stuff. And like if you have some kind of wallet, your wallet will get hacked. It'll be a virus, or you'll get your transfer fees will be insane. And like I said, if you want to get high returns, just trade in a regular options account. Crypto is like a JavaScript framework. Nvidia all-time high earlier today. First company to cross 4 trillion. Wow. After years of chasing after JavaScript frameworks, you realize good old HTML, CSS are best. I realized that back in 2014. I think Robert is a Fed secretly. In the future, we'll all be Feds. During day hours, he's working for CIA. At night, he's a streamer. Yeah, I mean, honestly, there's a lot of people that I watch. I've come across the habit of there's so many people I see on YouTube. I'm like, I bet that person's a Fed. And probably some of them are. I mean, but actually, it's quite interesting. I don't know if you guys get the same recommendations as me, but there's so many of those like ex-CIA, ex-intelligence people doing podcasts and stuff now. There's a lot of interesting stuff that they talk about. And it made me like when you think about how many people work for those organizations. Employees are everywhere, yeah. And I would imagine most of them like there's like 17 different intelligence agencies. And I would imagine like there are people who are Feds who interact with other Feds and other departments and they don't even know about it. That probably happens all the time. Like it's got to be, some single-digit percentage of the population. Microsoft hit all-time high too. Alex Jones is a Fed. If IRS starts a browsing internet, it'll be Jover for a lot of people. He's been in the Pentagon. Yeah, I don't know. It's one thing to even talk about Alex Jones conspiracy theories, but then to talk about a conspiracy theory involving Alex Jones is like that is a top tier conspiracy theory. I was a Fed when I was a baby. Now you're a cook. I'm trying to make sense of that. I'm just going to go back to programming. All right, this function is dramatically simpler now. Alex Jones talked about his father and other family being CIA. Well, maybe it's true. I don't know. I don't follow Alex Jones. Right about C++ 26 reflections. Seems promising. Oh yeah, did you figure out that thing with the generated header file? Actually, I had another idea. Today I was thinking about that question, that problem you had, and one thought that occurred to me is that the software you're working with generates a header file in C, if I recall correctly, and that's where this kind of changing header file comes from. Is there an option in the software itself that generates the header file to generate other formats? Because if you can generate as like a, I don't know, XML format or something, then or like a XML or JSON or some like generalized format, then maybe you can just have like the runtime C can read that generated structure file. Simulink does C and C++ code gen. Yeah, I guess if it's generating if it's generating like a whole project of C files, then maybe that doesn't exist. But I was just wondering if there's if there's a way, if there's an option for like I don't completely understand the context of the header file that's being generated, but if there's an option in Simulink to set to like to generate an artifact that that's easily parsable, a more easily parsable description of the structure, and then you can iterate over that. You can just have your C import that, like XML deserialize the structure, and then you can have your own general serializer, deserializer. Maybe might be too much work, or could be less work depending on how crazy the things get with that case you're dealing with. Now we'll stick with PFR. Sounds good, I guess. By 2033, when C++ 26 works, all compilers will be ready. Well, it's amazing to think the world, so many things in the world are converging. It's kind of amazing to think that, like in the 2030s, people will probably still be. There's probably still going to be a group of Luddites who will be maintaining C++ compilers and adding new features to the standard. And by then, AI will have completely taken over the world already. In the 2030s, the Amish are going to start. The Amish are going to start looking like Chads. Yeah, I guess they will. But even they've been getting sloppy, using electricity and finding ways to cheat and use cell phones. So this is looking pretty simplified. The Amish secretly completed AGI 10 years ago and are building the robot army underground. I don't think that's possible. I doubt the accuracy of that statement. I'll probably end up writing the whole app in Zig then. Zig has nice reflections. Did you get started on that Zig library you were working on? Or you had to work on? We'll start by the weekend. By 2033, Zig will hopefully reach 1.0. That's very far. I mean, it's not far in the future, but at the same time, it's like the huge tsunami of AI is still just starting to hit us now. So Robert, have you considered building your deep water port in a lagoon and then building Venice 2.0? But instead of using useless tree trunks, use pipes for geothermal boost? I have not considered that. Thanks all. Good night. Have a good night. Game Dev Chad. I do programming because I like programming. AI isn't going to change that. Call me old school, maybe. But you may get forced to at work. Liu Hiroyama says, "Good morning. How's it going? How do you guys all like your coffee?" I have, I usually just I'm lazy and use instant coffee. So I'll have a tablespoon and a half of an instant coffee mix with a bit of cream. And then recently I bought this Maxwell House. I thought it was actually instant coffee mix, hazelnut instant coffee mix, but I think it's actually just flavoring for coffee mix. So I've been putting that in a little bit of today. Perhaps I feel like new generation will look at me the same way I look at people who refuse to use colored syntax and only use ed. Maybe. I had someone commented on my recent video about my game and say that my code quality was not expressive enough, which I guess is like the new term people use for like code quality, like clean code. I've never heard it. I've only heard that term like once or twice in the last very recent past. It seems like every new generation like completely ignores what came before, and then they invent their own terms for things. Chilling my coffee close to freezing because it's summer. Cold coffee. Not my cup of tea. Want to try adding nicotine to my coffee? That's the first time I've heard of that. What did you go to? Tim's order. I actually don't buy Tim's anymore. The quality of their food has gotten terrible. Expressive. Yeah, I can make assumptions about what that would mean in the context of code, but I've never. I would probably call Java like verbose and like descriptive rather than expressive. Favorite course you've taken? I took a computer security course in undergrad at Waterloo. That was pretty interesting. We actually did like an example. One of the assignments was like trying to reverse engineer a one-time pad, where we were given a one-time pad that was used twice, and we had to like crack it. That was it. That was probably my favorite assignment. And then also the real-time operating systems course. That was a good one. A lot of people nowadays lean functional due to Rust popularity. Probably a large percentage of programmers too are JavaScript programmers, and JavaScript is fairly a functional language, especially a lot of the like later features they added with like the kind of crazy function closure syntax and whatnot. JavaScript is a debugging nightmare. I don't think JavaScript made functional popular. I think JavaScript is more functional than like C or Java, for sure. And since I think the number of web programmers is greater than pretty much any other type of programmer, it probably had an influence. Yeah, JS is like a baby step toward functional. When's the last time you touched LeetCode? I've never touched LeetCode. LeetCode came out well after I graduated, and it kind of never made it onto my radar. I'm too old to have tried LeetCode. Hello, Blitz says, "Hi Robert, how are you doing?" Not too bad. How are you? Is there a more efficient way to compare if the contents of two Linux files are identical, other than generating hash or relying on metadata? One approach would be if two files are identical, then it's true that they are not identical. So you could very quickly determine that two files are not identical if they don't have the same size. So if I guess the follow-up question is, can the files be of different size in this scenario? Because if they can all be the same size, then I think you have no choice but to look at the sparse regions. If the contents of two Linux files, but are the files potentially the same size? Are they always the same size in total? Because that if a lot of the files are of a different size, then that's one immediate way. That would be like check number one: are they the same size? I mean, actually, and if you're doing hashing, like it depends how much you need to optimize stuff, but you can use a weaker, faster checksum algorithm that is collisions. So like depending on depending on what kind of case you're checking for in the distribution of things, if it's possible, if ruling out two files as being similar is a common occurrence, then you can use a weak hash function and check first. And if they're different, if the two hashes are, if the ck sum command is much faster than anything else, but it's also a really weak hash function, so you can run that on both files. And then if it's different, then for sure it's not the same. But if you run ck sum and if it's both identical, I think it depends on the distribution. So if different files is a frequent occurrence, overall that'll be better. So you can run ck sum, and if ck sums are the same, then run like, I don't know, SHA-256 or whatever. Or yeah, I guess you could go, the most, probably depending on the distribution, most efficient thing would be check out if the two files are the same size or not. If they're the same size, check if the ck sums are the same. If the ck sums are the same, check the SHA-256, and that way you're minimizing how many 256 SHAs you're calculating. YouTube started redirecting my browser to a full page ad player since I had ad block enabled. Wow, with ad block enabled. What are your thoughts on people learning COBOL? Hi Mose, certainly a niche, but I've heard companies are willing to pay big bucks for experienced COBOL devs. I would wonder, are they? I would say if you have a lead, like if you really want to go that way, you can maybe learn a bit of it, and then if there's a high probability of actually getting a job using it, then you can really double down on it. But that's one of those areas where the supply of people who know COBOL really good is low, but also the demand is very low. So, I think it's going to very small amount of companies, governments, some very old mainframes still use COBOL. I know they do, but then again, there's an army of. The question is how many, and I would assume most of those places are trying to get off of COBOL. Because COBOL is pretty old at this point. It's kind of weird. It's a weird language because, it was when it was originally designed. If you wanted to learn COBOL, I would actually recommend, just go on eBay or something, buy some COBOL punch cards. Actually, I think I have a YouTube video on COBOL punch cards. And that'll give you an intuitive idea of there's some weird rules about certain lines have to be at a certain column indentation, and that's because of the legacy of it came from punch cards. I was thinking of hashing a couple ranges of blocks in the file. I told YouTube I'm not paying for premium until they timestamp and read the video. You could. I would say it all depends. The most efficient answer depends on how frequent in your scenario is it that the files will be different, overall of your files. What percentage of them are different from each other, and how rare is that occurrence? There'll be very few COBOL jobs. They might ask for a lot of experience. That's what I would expect. They're probably looking for some 60-year-old guy who just got laid off and has 40 years experience writing COBOL and mainframes and has written several COBOL compilers. And ML GPU compiler engineers are greater than COBOL engineers. Both niche, but one is in demand. Yeah, I would believe that. True, we're almost at the point where all those COBOL devs are retiring and getting old, so we may be on the verge of a very small COBOL gold rush. We might, but at the same time, don't bet the farm on it. I would say Yoshikaga's opinion is probably the right one. That probably asks for a lot of experience. And I mean, I would assume I would say there's a lot of ageism in the programming profession, but I would bet that for COBOL devs, the ageism would actually go in the reverse direction. I'd say for pretty much every other dev position, they would probably prefer to hire younger people that they can push really hard and get them to do overtime. And but for COBOL engineers, if I were to picture a COBOL engineer who would really want to work on my project, he would probably be an old person. I agree. Odds are better of getting a job if you go into modern language architecture. Just think it's an interesting niche. Yeah, I think it's the COBOL language itself. I don't think it's that complex necessary. But I would say if you learn it, I would say start with look at old punch card programs on COBOL, because if you think about it as a modern language, there's a lot of weird stuff that doesn't make any sense. But if you think about it in terms of being fed into via punch cards, it'll make more sense. Currently dog sitting for a friend at their new house. It's pretty nice. Excellent. I think these companies might want to migrate away from COBOL, but they aren't because it's too costly. Once there's a low-cost way, that job might be extinct. Yeah, I would assume that I can't see any good reason to start a COBOL project in this day and age. I would assume most of them are trying to get away from it. Dog's house is nice. The difficulty of parsing English. No one should be using COBOL anymore, but there are holdouts in everything, especially governments. But now that Doge is around, they're going to get rid of all those. A lot of missiles still using floppy disks because the systems were programmed for max security. Any downtime would be considered a security threat. Yeah, I think in some of those, there are I think there has recently been an effort to modernize some the nuclear weapons and military silos and stuff like that. You can Google that. I think there was I think this was actually some kind of big international deal where there was some official agreements signed, and because once they design one generation of one of those weapons, there's a mass amount of money spent in designing and speccing and testing it and stuff, and once they build them, they don't want to change them for years. But I think there has recently been a new modernization effort, so, and things using floppy disks for updates and stuff. I think that's a reasonable, I would consider that a feature rather than a bug. You don't want it to be connected to the internet. Banks are slowly transitioning to Java. Maybe having both Java understanding and COBOL might be useful. Yeah, soon every bank is going to be using the block mining simulation game for their data processing. It'll be used by all the insurance companies. Imagine the national security implications if floppy disks were to stop being manufactured. I'm sure there must be still there must be a place to buy them new. US government using Rust. Are they? People keep talking about Rust a lot. Most COBOL installations are running on IBM systems. These systems are intended to be backward compatible at the beginning to support contracts. They can run COBOL, Fortran, and Linux Java. They must slowly migrate because they also have to maintain operability with considerable consideration for regulations. Yeah, I would assume there's a lot of considerations for the COBOL market that are not necessarily about the language and more about all that other stuff, the contracts and backward compatibility and contractual obligations. Probably one factory on Earth. That's a good question. There must be somewhere that still makes them. Kind of like a VHS tapes and vinyl records are still being produced. Tape is a very efficient way to store information. Still, you can still it's still like an accepted method for long-term data storage of lots of data. Wants to place bets that IBM punch cards are still in use somewhere. Air traffic control also uses floppy disk, but they are struggling now. Yeah, I think those kind of systems need to be air gapped. But then again, I don't know. It's where the world is getting so like technological that like being able to maintain an air gapped system is getting harder and harder. Air traffic control is pretty cooked. I hope not. Floppy disk to USB adapters are a thing. Floppy to Ethernet. Floppy disk degrade much faster than modern media. I guess if you just use them for like air-gapped data transfer. Air-gapped is getting easier and easier to sniff using optical chips. Yeah, I mean nowadays, I'd imagine like probably a modern cell phone. Like a modern cell phone would have to have a modem that's incredibly sensitive to, be power efficient and to get the right data transfer and stuff. Oh my god, first super chat in a few days now. Terminal floppy disk service magnetizer. DLC or TBMS. Terminal floppy disk service magnetizer. I guess I could add a feature like that to the game. It's doable, but I'll have to add it to the desired features list. Thank you very much for the $10. To James Goodrich. What's that crawling behind you? Is there something on the wall? A bug maybe? Ship TBMS on floppy disk. I could make that a premium purchase for when I sell it and distribute it. Now I got some considerable lag now. Interesting. It's very laggy. But at least it's simpler so I can refactor it a bit easier. What changes are you making tonight? Tonight I'm just trying to further simplify the process of. So I have I have a few different kind of layers of mechanisms for updating the screen. So I have, so I first created like this, well, I had a screen layer, a screen mask, and this concept of a change regions, where I was trying to, so instead of updating the whole screen, it would create a data structure to keep track of like a subset of the screen, and then send that, and then hopefully be intelligent enough to only update areas on the screen, to like intelligently calculate only the areas on the screen that changed. But this, it was kind of a rat's nest of stuff, and I did it good enough to kind of improve the efficiency, but it was still kind of inefficient. And before I did the last release, I tried to simplify it, but I would remove stuff, and then I would completely break other things. So right now I'm just redesigning it to put everything in the screen layer class, and then all these like layer merging operations and stuff, I'm going to make that a member in this class, and then try to just, review. I think I can probably make the functions themselves only like 6 lines long. They don't need to be that complicated. But I'm doing it kind of methodically so I don't break stuff. Do you think a version for mobile would be available via Termux? I mean, it technically should work now on any. I think it'll probably work on like most terminals. Like I tried on what was it? Console or Terminator or something like that, and it just kind of worked immediately. There was a couple older versions of it doesn't work in GNU Screen. Actually, in an older version of GNU Screen, it doesn't work in GNU Screen wide mode. But yeah, some older terminals that don't handle emoji characters correctly, it'll be full of bugs. But technically, like I would not be surprised if it works pretty well on like a Windows subsystem for Linux. Anybody have good hardware recommendations for media server? Want something power efficient? I've no votes on that. Alright, it's time for bedtime. See you next stream. See you later. Thanks for the super chat. Let's see what happens if I delete that. I think this won't work. But maybe I will. I may have to re-add this back in later. But at least this will simplify things. It does work. It probably means I'm like undoing. I guess it's because my all of my mechanisms that are not for like setting that the mask are not actually doing much. I think because I had a bug, so I ended up ignoring the flags. Am I getting close to getting your game to run on my Mac? No. But I'm probably closer than anyone else, if that means anything. Oh, have you actually tried to get it to run? Are you trying with the build that's tagged as Are you trying with this build here? 1B2C. Soloda Entertainment says : Actually, I can delete that setting function because it's not being used. You did an update? Yes, I've been pushing every day, or almost every day. Yeah, so here's the Git history. This is public. You're breaking your computer now? Oh, and out of frustration? There are some terminals that don't. If you try this version, the 0.07 release version 1B2C. And you can probably also just run the jar. So if you check the GitHub, there's also a jar, a precompiled jar. Oh yeah, I should also do. I should do a thing to. Seriously, it blows my mind how much hate you receive. You're a genius. I don't think I get that much hate. Thank you for the kind words and sentiment. But yeah, if you're trying to get a broken build running, then you probably won't have a good time. But check this version here. That's like the last major release. Alright, so I've managed to make it slower. It seems like it still works. Yeah, if I set the mask, I should set it in here. Oh, and that also means I can delete another thing. How do you mean so aloof when coding? Or like master okay? I don't know. I guess you just mean like not being angry and frustrated. I have a pretty clear idea of what I'm working on. It's just honestly, I'm actually pretty slow. Like I've been working on this for quite a while, but I go in pretty kind of slow, methodical steps, and I try to just like whenever I have a working state, I just hang on to that for dear life, and that's why I keep recompiling this and like testing stuff and opening the frames, checking that this works. Because once I break it, once I introduce bugs, to get rid of the bugs is that now you're going to the trough of uncertainty, and you do this massive refactoring, and then you get the one thing working again. But now there's more. You introduce new bugs, and then you gotta figure out which of your 6,000 lines of change made that bug happen. I guess a lot of the stuff I've been working on with this recently is just pretty straightforward. And I guess I'm not under external deadlines. If I was if I was working somewhere, I would not be allowed to work this slow. But I want to get this thing. I'm not accomplishing a lot of features, but the UI has to be fast and like stable. Otherwise, nobody's going to want to play a terminal game that's full of like UI bugs. Okay, we removed some more things. The Lutherian Watchman says goon. That's not relevant. Props on addressing some really ignorant YouTube comments on a video you posted a little while ago. Keep doing you. Thanks for the kind words. Yeah, the how to become a 37-year-old broke loser one. That one, well, that got over 1 million views, so it pulled in a wide audience. There was also that video brought in like a lot of. I think there's multiple things going on there. One is like. For some reason, for some people, I think the video was like autobiographical, and they felt offended watching it because they're like, this is me, and I'm angry about this. So the comment that they post about me was actually directed at themselves. I think that's one aspect. The other is actually there was I think some like because I talked about the housing crisis. I think I don't think this is too paranoid to say, but I'm pretty sure they're actually, well, they said that they were some like landlords who are interested in propping up the housing market, and there was actually a few. There's at least like one specific guy who posted a bunch of comments like, "Oh, this guy's like he's a red flag. He's probably the problem." And then a few days later, like I didn't respond to him. A few days later, he deleted all of his posts. And there were even some, there were a few comments that were critical, and I was like, is this person spamming chat? I have to, I'm going to maybe ban that person. Where's he at? I'm trying to catch the chats before they roll off. Yeah, oh, that's, I guess it's both of you. Yeah, if you guys don't stop spamming, I'll have to ban both of you. You're on the circuit. You're already on probation. We got another one here. Radman. They seem to come in groups. Yeah, on the circuit, I may have to ban you. You're not responsive to my repeated requests to tell you to stop. I was here a couple days ago. Had a good chat about rent. Yeah, you've only made one inappropriate comment. Have you noticed the Thor from Pirate Games drama on YouTube? He doesn't understand for loops. How is that possible? I would assume he has to there's no way he could actually write code at a company. Let me Coding Jesus is critique. Felt nitpicky, especially the part about passing bare constants. Yeah, I saw that video. I don't know if I watched the whole thing, but from what I understand, Pirate Software doesn't really code on stream. I think a lot of those kinds of critiques and discussions, I think they're it's good. It is positive for the platform for those to exist, but like you say, they're the way I look at them. I think they're incredibly insightful for like first year computer science students. But beyond that, it's like there's kind of a, I don't know, like you start out being a noob, and then you do stuff poorly, and then an older person would be like, oh, that's not good quality. You should really improve your coding style, and then they'll lecture you about like why you should do this or that, and then you'll go through a phase where you're like, oh, I gotta make my code all look perfect, and it's got to be all proper and efficient, and use the latest coding paradigms and stuff. And then you kind of go through that phase, and then you become more experienced, and then you get to a point where even juniors will correct your behavior and be like, hey, shouldn't you not use that global variable? But you're like, I don't have time to. It's like it's too much work. Who's coding Jesus? It's a YouTuber. There was some drama on the internet about coding practices, which honestly, if people on the internet are getting pulled into coding drama, I think that's positive for humanity. Okay. Let's see. Let's see, do I even need this? Why is the indentation weird? Go-tos and globals. Even C has go-to, that makes it a real language, I guess. No more spam is nice. I don't know why they come out of the woodwork. If they're even real humans. Yeah, it seems like there's groups for a bunch of things. It almost seems like there's groups of people that come into chat like this group of people that talk about Waymans. That's such a random. It's like a meme, but I don't know. Does JS have GoTo? The last time I programmed JavaScript, it did not, and I remember that being was it GoTo or Yield? I'm pretty sure it doesn't have GoTo. I don't know if maybe they added one in the last 10 years. Lots of advice, asking for your advice. They could make a lot mentoring. Yeah, I'm going to try to put some I'm actually going to reflect on some of the discussions I've had on live stream chat, and then try to actually I wrote down some like notes. I'm going to try to maybe start recording a video tomorrow to kind of provide a better take on some of the advice questions I get on stream. JS doesn't have GoTo, but it does have Yield. I can't remember. I think it was the year 2013. I remember programming something, and it was either GoTo or Yield. I was trying to find some implementation of it in JavaScript, but it didn't exist. I pretty much only do embedded C. Curious about Go. I've never used Go, but from what people in chat say about Go, it sounds pretty good. Number one in your notes. How to get a job. I don't know, getting a job these days. Honestly, I actually don't even know. I would have to like, if I was getting a job, I would first like research how much getting a job has changed. Because like even the way you apply for stuff is different now. I think generators Yield are relatively new to JS. I don't think they were around in 2013. Yeah, that might have been it. I think it was Yield that I was looking for. Go seems like the natural progression of C. I think actually Go was designed by the same people. Like, what was it? Who are the creators of C again? Ken Thompson and Rob Pike. Yeah. Anyway, creators of C. I think they. Yeah, they went to Google and made Go. That was a joke. No one knows because the market is crap. I think the strategy for getting a job is like there's all kinds of like people have been saying to do all these tricks to trick like AI resume tools. But then I actually watched a video about from a recruiter who was saying like you should not put these stupid prompts in another in like blank font or something like that, because a bunch of people are doing that, and she explained why you shouldn't do that. Probably like figuring out some out of the box and networking thing is probably the best strategy. Sure compiles fast. No makefiles needed. Makefiles are awful and hard to maintain. Nepotism is the best strategy. Yeah, I think that's an overly cynical take. I mean, nepotism is great if you can get that, but a lot of it is like, especially with the advent of AI, in this day and age, a known evil is better than an unknown evil. Like there's even like news articles coming out, like people are using AI agents to try and get hired, and then they just use the AI agent to like be the full-time person and do terrible work. Like, can you imagine how dumb you would feel if you were a hiring manager and you hired someone and you're like, oh, this person's pretty good, and then they just swap themselves out for like an AI, and then they don't do any work, and you're paying them a full-time salary. So there's that. And like, if you just like went to school with someone, if you sat beside someone and you know they're a real human who is not going to pull something like that. And the other thing is, there were a few companies recently that they hired someone to work remote, and they actually hired a North Korean worker, and then the company got busted because this person was working from North Korea, and they said they were sad to let them go because they were like the best workers. So if you hire someone, like if you physically work beside someone somewhere, and then you meet, like network with them on LinkedIn, then you can, in a few years from now, you might, like that person will get a job somewhere else, and then you might be getting in there, and they'll be like, oh, okay, I know this is a real person because I sat beside them, and they're not like a North Korean spy or something. Eric Rami says, what's up, Rob? How's it going today? Not too bad. Just working on simplifying the block mining simulation game. Trying to cut down on... trying to just simplify the code. And then once I simplify it and keep it working, then I'm going to make it faster. I'd say going to meetups related to your skill set would be the best strategy. It might be. I don't know. Meetups were good before the pandemic, but then they kind of collapsed after that. I haven't looked recently on Meetup, but I actually hosted a meetup on meetup.com. And then like sometime after the pandemic, like, 2023 or 4, I looked into just to see what was on there, and everything was like remote. It was all like virtual meetups, which is like I'm doing a virtual meetup right now. Are you from Canada or moved to it? I'm from here. 5 says, good evening, Robert, in chat. How's it going? You said there's going to be a video 2 days ago. What happened to that, Mr. Lazy Ass? A new video 2 days ago. There is you probably mean the shorts. There's a shorts video out that came out today. Funny way, I've heard of some interviewers sussing out suspected North Korean candidates. We're asking them to say something, anything negative about the North Korean leader. Huh? Yeah, that's a good approach. Bot, Carney is your leader. You mean you're a bot? Maybe you should say something bad about North Korea. North Korean leader. In-person meetup still exists. Have you had roosters at Waterloo? What do you mean by that? I just remembered. I actually do need this. North Korean leader has the tastiest sawdust. Eat it 3 times a day. I don't know what that means. I don't know. That makes me think you're more of a bot. Oh, nice fried chicken. Roosters is a fried chicken place. There were a few places people frequented. Actually, I don't even remember. Was it Mel's Diner? That was a place that was super popular among people. I went there once and I didn't like their food. Better than Popeyes? Not sure. Can't speak to that. Shawarma Plus. There is a shawarma place down on King Street. I used to go there regularly for a bit, but I haven't been there in a while. World domination. Yep. On the same topic, remote work strategies. I've also heard of multiple people working together for a single role, pretending to be just one person, splitting the profits. Yeah, you might be able to do, you probably even have like multiple slightly less qualified people working together to like score one of those lucrative fang jobs. Eat the crickets while owning nothing and being happy. Now I'm going to be nice once I take over the world. And then everyone can eat food instead of bugs. I use VI over Emacs. I tried VI and Emacs, and I just like VI better, or Vim, as a VI is symlinked to. I just type VI because it's one less character, but it's really Vim. The hotkeys for Emacs are much more arbitrary, in my opinion. But for Vim, it's more like almost like a grammar, where you can do you can type, VIT, VI bracket, VI whatever, angle bracket to get between stuff, to select everything between stuff. Can you play chess? No, not really. Well, I'd say no at all. I tried it when I was a kid, and I was like, yeah, this is neat. But the amount of time, there's too much stuff to do. Life is too short to play chess. Let's see. It's already 12:28. I should probably call it a night. I don't want to stay up too late and end up sleeping in. Gotta get some work done tomorrow. Well, I did a little bit. I deleted some functions. That was just not this is not a super productive night, but real quick, what repo are you pushing to? What are you coding? There's a link in the description. What are you coding? It's a terminal block binding game. And you asked about world domination. I think so. I have a video, one of my second most recent long form videos about that. You can check it out. It was fun. Have a good night. Only 9:30 out west. It's past midnight here. All right, I'll leave it there. Talk to you guys tomorrow for day 79.